And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Pregame Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am joined by Eric Wiedeke, Coach Eric Smith, who will likely be joining us very shortly, and he will proceed to explain to me why the offensive line is actually wonderful instead of the dumpster fire that I personally think it is. Maybe it's true what they say, somewhere the truth is in the middle, and we'll be able to go into that as we talk about the Miami Dolphins facing off against the New York Jets for the first time this season, as Eric and I argue over who is the producer of this show. Coach Eric Smith, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right. We're going to be talking.
Well. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're all doing good. We're all doing good. So today the Miami Dolphins are facing off the Jets. I put in a lot of effort into making this thumbnail. So I hope that everybody appreciates it. Doggone it. My hand is hurting from all the brushing I had to do, make backgrounds go away on layer masks, like all these things that I'm learning in real time as we go. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins facing off against the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers is active. As I said, he is the quarterback, coach, GM, owner of the New York Jets at this point. I refuse to believe otherwise until I am proven otherwise. And Tua's going to have, like, every game is a big game now. Every single game that happens from this point on to the end of the season is considered a big game. As Ethan Skolnick joins us as well. He is in the background. He is walking. So we're going to go ahead and get into all that. We'll let him have his say. He's going to be, I believe he is. Are you going to be on site, sir, or are you somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm heading on site. I'm just going to be a little late, and then I got
no problem.
and then I got a Heat game after that. But yeah, no, I appreciate Louis. You started things up and on all that. I just have a couple questions for the guys today, because I've seen a lot of talk about with Mostert being out and trying to get Jalen Wright involved, and I know Eric W has posted on about how they got to get the running game going. I don't think they're going to, though. Am I wrong about this? I sort of feel like the weather's perfect today. I feel like this is a lean into Tua, short passing game, right? Eric, why do you think he'll actually do it? Because I don't.
No, I mean, really, it's more so that's what I'd like to see them try to do.
Right.
I think this would be kind of soft landing spot for them to try to work in the running game again. But, just how they're looking at the season right now, and considering that every game is a must win, I think they're going to lean into what they know works, and that's going to be the short passing game.
Eric Smith, do you think we're going to see a Tyreek breakout game before the end of this year? I don't know if you can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Seems like everybody else has had theirs. Today would be a nice day. I'm having troubles here.
I think Coach is having some internet issues. He's getting things on delay.
Okay, yeah, he's got things a little bit lag, so he'll be back here. I mean, what do you think, Louis? I mean, are we finally going to see Tyreek? I mean, he's got one 100-yard game the entire season. Like, this is this is
a short answer, no,
not a bug.
No, we're not going to see a Tyreek breakout game, because defenses have sold out to basically put a bottle cap on him and say, you're not getting out, you're not going anywhere. They're going to do everything they humanly can to not let him get free, because the only thing that Tyreek is doing, really, and this is another criticism we can have of Mike McDaniel, is that his job is to go deep. And if you're going to put 2 high safeties on him, then that just means, again, he's the most expensive decoy in the NFL. So that's a failing of Mike McDaniel for not getting him more involved, for not getting him in the short passing game, getting some screens to Tyreek, making it so that Tyreek can maybe get some runs in. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with Tyreek, for better or worse. The offense is still functioning even without Tyreek getting 9 or 10 catches a game. Jonnu Smith seems to be taking up that spot, because defenses are sacrificing, well, we're not going to get eaten alive by Tyreek, but we'll go ahead and we'll trade that for Jonnu Smith getting open a bunch of times, which if Tua continues to hit him one way or another, the offense is going to move. It's just a question of, can they do it consistently? And that, I think, comes from needing the run game. Again, this is all stuff that I talked about on Twitter, and my mentions are still blowing up even now with the debate, the firestorm that I started just by suggesting that we give McDaniel extra time to learn and grow. But we'll see if we can get into that as time passes.
Well, Jonnu Smith, I think the number on Prize Picks is 49.5 today, so they're starting to catch on that he's going to get that they're going to continue to work the middle of the field with him. But Coach, now that you're back, and I think you can hear us now. That would seem. We have enough evidence right now that they're just going to. Again, Tyreek's just going to take the extra safety, and they're just going to take what's given to them and try to use these long drives, get down the field. But the explosive play, it's like they've swung so far the other direction. Like all last year was like, well, they can't win just this way. They're going to have to sustain some drives. They're going to have to use other players other than just Tyreek and Waddle. But now they're not even using Tyreek and Waddle, so it's gone the other direction. So do you see anything pivoting here where Tyreek becomes more of a factor?
No, I think we'll see a similar game plan to what we have, and we've seen them starting to get back a little bit to those deep in those dig routes, as teams have moved up and started playing the run game. So we've seen a little more of those intermediate throws to Waddle and Hill start to come back into the offense. In terms of the deep shots, like that's just going to be as teams continue to adjust forward, right? They were sitting back so far to start the season, and that's where you saw the running game come on. And now they've, moved some of those linebackers up to, slow down the running game to an extent, but they're still keeping the safeties back, and that's what's keeping that intermediate area open. So now, like you said, teams and prize picks are picking up on Jonnu having, those opportunities. So as teams start to creep forward and try to limit that, right, that's what's going to open up the deep shot to Tyreek. And it's going to be, it's not that he's going to catch 15 passes in a game. It's going to be that, one or two plays that goes for 50 or 60 yards, and that's what's going to look like a breakout game.
Before I head out here, just one more thing on the defense today. I know we've kind of cited Chop Robinson as a guy who's come on a little bit as the year has gone on. The Jets have had their problems in protection this year. So I'll go to all of you guys on this. Where does it start for the defense today? Does it start with getting pressure and getting him uncomfortable?
Well, it always starts there. It always starts there because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what team you're facing. If a quarterback can't get comfortable and get in his set, then it doesn't really matter how good he is. Like, you have to still be able to see the field. You have to be able to find your targets. And with guys in your face, that's always going to be more difficult. Now, the question becomes, can they actually do it? I don't know, because Chop Robinson, lately we've been seeing that he's getting the Cameron Wake treatment, and that it seems like he's getting held on every single time he's rushing, right. And everybody ignores him. So all these things that are happening, can they get a pass rush? I don't know the answer to that. Bradley Chubb is not active today, unfortunately. He has not been activated yet, so that's going to be more difficult. Now they're going to have to lean more on Emmanuel Ogbah again. They're going to have to try to figure out some ways to generate pressure. It's going to come from Zach Sealer up the middle, I imagine. That's probably the best option they have right now. So as long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't get a chance to become his vintage self, this is what I was suggesting, is that somehow, some way, because that would be the most Dolphin thing ever, is that Aaron Rodgers would tap into some of that old magic he had like 10 years ago, come out of his cave, and suddenly become the Aaron Rodgers of old. Like a fine wine, he would suddenly return. And Ron Caniff, who was on our Pulse of Fins Nation show, made it a point to explain just how cooked Aaron Rodgers is. Well, listen, man, like even a well-done steak, there are some people who enjoy that sort of thing, so you never know.
Is right now, is Joe Flacco better than Aaron Rodgers right now? Like some of these old quarterbacks that have played, I just feel like Aaron's declined to such a degree. I don't know. Like I don't think there's one more game in him, honestly, which will be the ultimate kiss of death. There'll be 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 322 yards on 72% completions today. But I kind of feel, honestly, as I head over there, and I'll let you guys take it from here. I think the Dolphins win comfortably today. I do. I don't see Aaron mustering anything. I think Miami will get enough pressure on him. I think they get a couple of turnovers today. And I think Tua just has one of those efficient games. Like when you woke up this morning and the weather is like this just plays right into his hands today. And I think he'll have a strong game today. Anyway, I'll be back on post. I appreciate all you guys taking it. And again, prize picks, use the Mahomes prop. Half a passing yard. Play with anything else that you want. Put down your $5 and you get $50 to play. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this up now. We have the inactives list officially for the rest of this here. So I'm going to pull this up. We are looking at Skylar Thompson, obviously, as the emergency third quarterback. Ethan Bonner is inactive once again. Raheem Mostert is inactive, so he's dealing with some injury concerns. Andrew Meyer, as usual. Jack Stoll, the tight end that was claimed, and River Craycraft is also inactive. I don't know what happened to Eric Wiedeke. I think he maybe ran out of internet here. Okay, so either way, Ethan is still actually there. He's like, maybe I should bring him back on. It's like, we still see you. Hello. Okay, no, he went away. Nope, he went away. Okay. Anyway, no, he's gone now. Okay, so no Raheem Mostert. We've already discussed that. More than likely, that means that Jeff Wilson is going to maybe get a carry or two, which is ironic because I do remember some folks on Twitter saying, oh, now Jeff Wilson is active after the cold game is no longer a thing, and now we don't need the physical running game anymore. That has been the theme here, is just the personnel usage. I understand that. I still think that, and I know, Coach, you and I are going to probably go back and forth on this until the day we die, but I just don't think that the Miami Dolphins offensive line is good enough to be able to get that 1 yard push on the goal line. I think that's why, like, part of it, I feel like, and I've already explained this, it's confidence level. How confident is Mike McDaniel in his offensive line to get that 1 yard? Because I feel like, and this was something he was doing earlier on in the season when he was doing fullback dives to Alec Ingold. He was trying to have faith that his offensive line would get that 1 yard push, and a couple of times it worked. And then the next several times it did not work. And so he reached a point where it's like, oh, okay, we can't get that 1 yard push even with Ingold running the football. So let's go back to doing what we were doing before and trying to be sneaky and trying to do this weird, funky reverse thing. Let's take a deep shot when no one's expecting it on 4th down. And I feel like just the lack of confidence to be able to get that 1 yard, because on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, Miami's pretty darn good. It's only that 1 yard. When they can't get that 1 yard. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what gets into their heads when it's about that 1 yard. But this is something we also talked about, is like people saying that Tua can't do QB sneak because his head is made of marshmallow. Okay, but if you need a QB sneak that badly, just run the Wildcat. That's not an excuse. You should still be able to get that 1 yard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if your excuse is that you don't feel you can run the sneak, we've seen that before with Ingold. We've seen it before with Smythe. I think that I don't know if the sneak is the answer to it. I think it was CK had posted, or maybe it was Ryan Smith. I don't know. One of them posted the stats as far as the quarterback sneaks between the Dolphins and a team like the Rams, who have a much better success in those scenarios. You talk about the short yardage situations. We talk about that goal line run where they got stuffed, but we've talked about the other backs, right? Devon Achane was stopped at the goal line, and I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to say that the blocking was great on that goal line run last week, but you have Jalen Wright, you have Raheem Mostert, you have Jeff Wilson, right? Why are we trying to pound it in with Devon Achane from the 1 yard line? And that goes back to a bigger picture, the same thing we've been talking about with Jalen Wright, with Raheem Mostert still seeming like he's in the doghouse. Like, why is Achane dominating the carries, especially in a game where we want to be more physical, we want to run the ball, and have a bigger back to be a little more physical, and yet it's still Achane that's dominating the carries. So, I obviously can't tell you what McDaniel is thinking. Like you said, Lewis, we're gonna argue till the day we die about this offensive line. But I think that there is I have less concern with them being able to do that. I feel that they can do that better than what they've been given the opportunity to do. And part of that, and I explained this in my video last week, is just the type of play calling. Like you said, Lewis, running the jet sweep where we're leaving an unblocked defender, but we haven't done anything to set that up, right? So what would give you confidence that that's going to work when you haven't run anything that's hit a cutback lane that's going to get that defensive end to collapse that? The early runs last week, the first 3 runs were that inside zone with the wham or trap block from the tight end that they didn't run all year. And that's what we're going to start out with on the road on a short week. That doesn't make any sense. And then second down, or the second running play, they go to a draw that they couldn't even get the handoff because the timing was off. And then, we get a penalty, it's 3rd and 29, and you get a 3 yard run, which really doesn't matter. It's a throwaway play, right? So we're saying that they can't run the ball, but I don't feel like they're really even giving them a good opportunity to do that. So I don't know. I mean, I know that from my perspective, the one hope that I have for today, and Frank Smith talked about the strong side outside zone being what they want to be able to do. If you're going to say that's what you want to be able to do, then come out today and on that first drive within the first 3 plays, just run what you're saying you want to be the base of your offense.
And I truly do believe that at his heart of hearts, and this has been the thing he's had to try to overcome mentally for a while now. And again, he has a tendency to fall back into old habits. That's what we're learning in the early on years of Mike McDaniel. And again, I want to just touch on this because it started a firestorm and it's worth discussing. Because Dan Campbell is leading his Detroit Lions to what is potentially going to be a Super Bowl run. And he's more than likely, he might just make it. He really might just make it. With that being said, though, Dan Campbell, the guy that he today, is not the guy that he was when he was in Miami. It's been 10 years since that took place. And even when he first got to Detroit, it wasn't like Dan Campbell was a superstar head coach. The Lions were not world beaters by any stretch. In fact, Dan Campbell, we toasted him a couple of years ago. So it wasn't that long ago that we were laughing at the Lions again, even still, and looking at Dan Campbell's like, oh, he still wasn't ready. Well, now he's ready because things are working. Things have changed. Like the readiness and the requisites of a head coach change depending on what's happening during the season. McDaniel right now is not having a good year, and so obviously he's an idiot. Last year when he was doing pretty well, and the year before that when we made the playoffs, McDaniel was pretty good. So if we make the playoffs again, then McDaniel's pretty good. And that's how it always goes. It's what have you done for me since last week? And since last week did not go well, we hate McDaniel's guts, and that's kind of how social media is as a whole. It's what has happened in the last 5 minutes. So in the long run, I feel like McDaniel has shown that he has a lot of potential. He's obviously very smart. He's not smart. He's not like Adam Gase pretending to be smart, and he's just a dude who rode the coattails of Peyton Manning to stardom, and now we haven't seen him for the past. When is the last time we saw Adam Gase? When he got fired from the Jets, and we haven't seen him since. And so it's obvious that the man is not particularly bright when it comes to football. He just talks a good game because Peyton Manning was in his back pocket. Now we have McDaniel, who came in, took an offense that was fumbling and bumbling around because Brian Flores couldn't keep an offensive staff together to save his life. And that is a valid criticism of him. Say whatever you want about his leadership, his toughness, his defenses, whatever have you. He could not run an offense. And he was getting ready to basically force Tua out of the league because he's like, I don't even like playing football anymore. Like, this guy is so bad and he treats me so poorly. McDaniel, the criticism is he wants to be everybody's friend. Okay, but it's better than being everybody's enemy. You don't want to hate your head coach. Like, even the players who played with Don Shula, was like he was a dictator, and I hated when he coached him. I don't think anybody hated Don Shula as a person. I don't think anybody said, like, I hate Don Shula and I hope something terrible happens to him because he's a horrible person. Like, even those players who played with him back in the day, and they were doing 2-a-days, and they were doing all sorts of stuff that everybody would never even dream McDaniel would do to his players. They still liked him. Like, you can't be so much of a jerk that your whole team decides that, you know what, you're just not a nice person. That's the wrong effect. Now, does McDaniel need to get tougher? Probably. That might come with time as he continues to learn and grow. This is the growing pains of being a head coach. If you want to fire him, understand that McDaniel has shown enough to say that he will likely get another head coaching shot somewhere down the line, and he may win something. So you either take the lumps right now, because not every team has a super season every single year, even with rosters that are stacked. As much as we love Mike Tomlin has not always looked the best. Those Steelers have always pulled together and made something happen, but there have been many, 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 many games, including earlier this year, where the Steelers looked god-awful. They were terrible. For a couple of years, they've been not that great, but Mike Tomlin pulls it together in the end. But he's been a head coach for how long now? He's already learned how to do all this stuff. And I see Eric shaking his head in the bottom of the screen here. So I don't know what you're disagreeing with me here. It's like McDaniel doesn't deserve to have time to grow.
No. So what I'm disagreeing with is, one, again, I fundamentally disagree with Mike Tomlin with giving McDaniel the same amount of leash as a guy that won a Super Bowl in like his second or third year as a head coach. We can't do that. Like, we have to understand that the situations are very different, not only with Tomlin, but with Harbaugh, because the same thing happened there. They came in, they won a Super Bowl within the first 4 or 5 years of Tomlin and Harbaugh. And Tomlin never had a losing season. That's not to say that they haven't had years where he could be better. Absolutely, they've had those seasons. But my question to you would be, and this is ultimately where I struggle with McDaniel, because I see a lot of the same things that you do in terms of the game planning and some of the play design, and I really like some of the offensive concepts. But what I come back to is, what has he gotten better at between year 1 and year 3? Because I'm looking at a guy that honestly, he still struggles with his challenges. He still struggles with short yardage play calling. Like, I don't see the growth. If there was an area where you could point to me that you said, yes, this is where he's grown and McDaniel's gotten so much better from year 1 to year 3 in this one aspect, I would be 100% on board with this. But I'm struggling to find where I've seen these improvements from him. I've seen a guy that I feel like, sure, he's changed up maybe his balance offensively, but I feel like a lot of the same telltale issues with the pre-snap penalties and the short yardage issues and the challenges are still there. And I'm just wondering, when is that going to get better? Like, where is the improvement?
I disagree on pre-snap penalties. I think that's gotten better over time. I think that's gotten better because we haven't had nearly as many false starts and illegal formations as we're used to over the past 2 seasons. And as far as like, that's a big thing, is like his balance. For a while, he adapted and he realized that he couldn't rely on only one thing. And he finally decided, you know what, I'm going to have to change the game plan. And to some extent, it worked. So we have to give him credit for that much, at least. Now, again, everything is results oriented. If Miami pulls together and runs the table, it's another winning season for McDaniel. Does it look pretty? No. And even if they don't make the playoffs, 9-8 is still a winning season. He does it again. It's not pretty, but it's done it. Polterghost says he's improved the usage in his press conferences. Okay, look.
I disagree with that.
Oh, you he still too
much. That's brutal.
I know what I'm trying to say. It's just I talk so fast and I end up umming a lot as I try to reload my my holster. But anyway, let's go ahead and we'll very quickly just pivot to some prize picks. Again, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match whatever. When you put in $5, they'll give you a $50 promo fund so that you can make some of your bets. Here we have the Miami Dolphins prize picks list here. So we have a lot of guys here, mostly Devon Achane, to basically fill up the first part of the screen here. You have longest rush yards in first 5 attempts. Lately, he hasn't been able to hit that because in the first 5 attempts against Green Bay, he only got 6 yards, which is not pretty. The New York Jets, just for the sake of understanding, as of right now, according to overall statistics, the New York Jets have allowed 1,515 rushing yards this year, which puts them at 19th overall in rush yards allowed. However, they have only allowed, according to yards per attempt, they have only allowed 4.1 yards per carry. That actually puts them 5th overall, behind only the Broncos, the Vikings, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, who are at number 1 and only allowing 3.5 yards per rushing attempt. So as far as overall yardage, the Jets give up a lot, but I suspect that's because they spend so much time on defense. As far as yards per attempt, though, the Jets are pretty darn good at stopping the run. So with that being said, and I'm just trying to pull up here and see if they have added Jalen Wright to the list, because I don't think they did yet. I think they were still because it was late last night and I was looking and they still had Mostert up there, even though Ian Rappaport has said he wasn't going to play. Nope, there is no Jalen Wright. In fact, I don't even expect Jalen Wright. Oh, wait, no, I take it back. There's one Jalen Wright right here, 20.5 rushing yards. He made the number against the Patriots. He got to 28. But I'll be dead honest with you. I think the safest thing for him specifically would be to click the under. I just don't think he's going to get that much run today.
Yeah, I agree. Until they prove otherwise, I wouldn't touch anything to do with Jalen Wright until they show that they're willing to spread those carries out more than what they have.
All right, Eric, going down the list here, we have, of course, Jalen Waddle. We have Jonnu Smith. We have Malik Washington here. Odell Beckham is on this list as well. So of all the players that we're looking at here, look, here's Tyreek. Is he going to get even 5 receptions? What are your thoughts here, and what do you think would be the safest play today?
So the safest play today for me would be what is Jalen Waddle's reception sitting at? Is it 3.5? I believe left.
Jalen Waddle's receptions are at 2.5, but that's only if you use the Goblin. If you do
for the Goblin.
Okay, so there is no standard play.
Honestly,
it's either Goblin
if 4.5, if 4.5 is going to be a boosted play there, I would take 4.5 for Waddle. I know he only had 4 catches last week against Green Bay, but he started to come on in the last couple of weeks. So I would look for him to kind of take some of that added pressure or added attention from Tyreek and run with that.
All right, Coach. Do you have any? Do you have a different play that you would want to look at?
I mean, probably. What's H-Chan's carries at?
H-Chan's overall carries comes out to 14.5 rushing attempts, which he has been under in the last several games, except for the one against the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that'd probably be high. If I were going with that one, I'd probably go the under on that. Anything with Jonnu, I would feel comfortable with. I think they said what the yardage there was around like 50. Is that what Ethan said?
It's currently at 50.5.
Yeah, so I mean that's one that I would be more comfortable taking. What's that?
Well, part of me is
no, I just said that's entirely.
I feel like the reception is the safer bet.
Yeah, listen, anything to do with him, I think that's going to be where the Jets, allow it to go. I think that the Jets' interior defensive line, especially, is pretty good. You talked about their per carry performance, and they've been burned by the big play before. So I think that they're going to, at least early in the game, I think that Jonnu's going to be the one that's going to kind of get the offense going, and then they're going to see where the defense adjusts from there. But I think that Jonnu's still going to get his numbers today.
All right. So, and as per the Prize Picks rules, you always have to pick at least one player from the other team. So we'll go ahead and we'll try to take a couple from the Jets. So here's what Prize Picks is suspecting with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers at 229 passing yards. He's been under in the last 4 games, except for the one game against the Patriots, which was back on October. And he just barely got over this line. Would you feel safe picking the under for Aaron Rodgers against the Dolphins defense?
I would if I feel safe with anything with Rodgers, it's actually probably over an interception, because I think that this is a game where the Dolphins are going to be up for a good portion of it, and he's going to have to throw the ball a ton. I know that
he hasn't gotten it. He only got through one interception, and that was last week against the Seahawks. So that's 4 games before that he didn't throw one.
I like that one too.
Yeah, he's gone. I know he's gone under 4 out of the last 5 weeks, but Aaron Rodgers is not the Aaron Rodgers old. I know you were talking about it'd be the most Dolphins thing ever for Aaron Rodgers to go off. No, the most Dolphins thing ever is the Dolphins knock Aaron Rodgers out of the game early, and Tyrod Taylor is the one that beats them. That's more Dolphins than that.
All right, so I will go and I will base it off of your suggestion. I will put the INTs on there. One last thing we got to pick. I'm gonna go. You can pick up to 6, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, to see if you really want to get in some wins here. But with that being said, we have other players. Alan Lazard has been reactivated. He's likely to play. Braylon Allen, a running back, because there is no Breece Hall today.
I like Braylon Allen.
What's that now?
I like Braylon Allen.
Do you like him to go over 53.5?
At least early on in the game. The only reason why his numbers are so low is because Breece Hall was playing, but my entire critique of the Jets offense this year is that they just never leaned heavily enough into their running backs, because I think Allen's really good.
So would you pick the receiving on him? Or would you go with the rushing yards or something else?
I'm gonna go with anything with him. It might be over 13.5 on the longest rush, because I think that this is a Dolphins defense that is they've done this whole thing where they'll give up 3 yards per carry, and then they'll give up 1 carry of 30 yards, and they'll end up averaging out to about 4.5, 5 yards a carry allowed.
Well, Zach Sealer's playing, so I don't feel safe with that one, to be honest. I feel like they actually are pretty stout against the run to some extent. So, Coach, do you concur with Eric on the longest rush?
I mean, I could definitely see that scenario that he was talking about. If I were going to pick one on Braylon Allen, I would pick the attempts. I feel like 14.5. I feel like he's going to get more carries than that with Breece Hall being out. Unless the Dolphins run away with it early and they have to throw the ball 40 times. I think that they're going to. I think he'd hit that number.
All right. So that's going to be our prize picks portion of this show. So before we go ahead and call it here, let's do some very quick game predictions here. So Mr. Eric Wiedeke, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it sucks because I want it to feel good that they're probably going to win, and I really like that they're going to blow out the Jets, but I mean, I got them winning 31-16 in a, do it against Houston next week kind of vibe.
Coach Eric.
Yeah, so I was pretty close. I'm hoping that they get away with this game early, that they can just put together some long drives, keep this as a shorter game, but are able to continue to put the ball in the end zone. I had it at 31-14.
So I'm going to be the one who, again, I hate to be. I think the Dolphins are going to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that they're going to lose against the Jets, but I personally there's something about this game that makes me feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and be like, oh yeah, I remember who I am now. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to do some things. I don't think he's going to do a lot of things, but he's going to do some things that are going to be like make us a little nervous. So I think ultimately Miami does win this game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as we're wanting it to be. I think it's going to come out to something along the lines of 24-17, and it's going to be a low scoring game as far as Miami's concerned. I'm just not. I need to see them actually get some success with the running game again, and then hopefully they'll be able to. If they do better than that, I hope they can carry the momentum into next week against the Texans, because that's I said it at the start of the show. Every game at this point is a big game, but the Texans is the biggest because it's not Aaron Rodgers you're facing, who's 40 years old and toast. It's C.J. Stroud in the prime of his life, so you need to be ready for that. All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you all so much for checking us out. Make sure that you go to Prize Picks, use the promo code 5, FIVE, put in $5 bet when you use the promo code to sign up, and they'll give you $50 in promo funds. We will be back here after the game to do post game. So until then, we will see you all next time.